Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really tearing into the Q3 2025 earnings from Warner Bros. Discovery, WBD.
Yeah, and their whole strategic vision. It's a big one.
It really is. This isn't just numbers. It feels like management is saying, okay, the rebuild's over.
Exactly. They're
Yeah.
claiming it's done, and now it's all about growth.
Right. So for you listening, our mission here is to unpack that claim. Did they actually transition successfully?
They had those three big principles guiding them. Right?
Yeah. Studios back on top.
Right. That's one. Then scaling HBO Max globally.
Aggressively scaling, yeah?
And number three, optimizing those traditional linear networks, even with cord cutting.
So we need to check if the financials actually back up all that talk.
Precisely. Let's see if the reality matches the rhetoric.
Okay, so let's start big picture then. The financials, did they actually, stabilize things?
They absolutely did. Total revenues were $9.0 billion.
Okay, but I saw that was down year over year, a 6% decrease.
It was, yeah, 6% ex-FX. And look, that number on its own looks a bit soft.
Right.
But you need the context. If you strip out the effect of the 2024 Olympics they broadcast in Europe last year.
That was a one-off.
Exactly. Take that out, and revenues were actually flat. So the core business is holding its ground, even with all the changes.
Okay, holding steady is one thing, but they're talking growth mode. Did margins improve?
They did. And this, I think, is where it gets really interesting for you. Adjusted EBITDA, up 2%.
Okay, 2%.
To $2.5 billion. And the key part, that growth came mostly from streaming and studios.
The future bets.
Precisely. The areas they're pouring investment into are the ones driving the profit growth now.
So it suggests maybe the painful cost-cutting phase is actually starting to pay off, revenue's sticking where it should.
Seems like it. And think about the overall financial health. You mentioned they're gearing up for that big structural split.
Yeah, are the books strong enough for that?
Well, they're definitely healthier. Look at free cash flow. A really strong $701 million.
And that's up year over year.
Up 11%. And get this, that's after they spend about $500 million just on costs related to that separation plan.
Wow, okay.
Plus, they're paying down debt like crazy. Another $1.2 billion cleared in Q3.
Why does that debt repayment matter so much for us watching this?
It just massively lowers their risk. Their net leverage ratio, basically debt versus earnings, is down to 3.3 times.
Which is good.
For a company this size, getting down to 3.3x, that's a sign they've really de-risked the balance sheet. They've stabilized. The house is pretty much in order now, ready for whatever's next.
Okay, the house is in order. Let's unpack those growth engines then. First principle, studios are back, industry leadership. Is that just hype, or do the numbers prove it?
Oh, the studio segment. It was a huge win, creatively and financially. Adjusted EBITDA shot up to $695 million this quarter.
From what?
From $308 million same time last year. Revenue's up 22%. That's serious momentum.
That is a massive jump. Was it just throwing more movies out there or something else?
No, it was focus. Efficiency. And here's the stat that, for me, really stands out from this whole report.
Okay.
WBD is leading the global box office for 2025. They're the only studio past $4 billion so far.
$4 billion. Okay.
But how they did it? Only 11 films.
Just 11. Wow, compared to
20 films the last time they hit $4 billion, back in 2019.
So they're basically making almost double the money per film.
Exactly. Fewer swings, much bigger hits. It suggests they're being way smarter with their capital and, their creative bets.
Incredible efficiency. So what were the actual movies in Q3 that made that happen?
It was a good mix. You had the big launch of the new DC era with Superman.
Highly anticipated, yeah.
Then they showed their horror chops again with Weapons and The Conjuring, Last Rites. Those two together pulled in over $750 million.
Wow.
But crucially, they also backed original stuff, like Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. So it wasn't just franchise milking.
And looking forward, it seems like the plan is definitely mining that IP library to hit that, $3 billion EBITDA goal for the studio?
Absolutely. You see it in the scheduling. They just announced a new Gremlins film.
No way, really?
Yeah, set for 2027. And they got Spielberg back producing, Chris Columbus directing. It's a perfect play. Known IP, big names attached.
They're leveraging the catalog. What about the TV side? WBTV, still a powerhouse.
Still the biggest supplier out there. Over 70 active shows across like 20 different platforms.
It's dominant then.
And the quality's recognized. They picked up 14 Emmys this season. 5 for The Pit, 9 for The Penguin.
The Penguin, the Batman spinoff, right?
That's the one. And this points to a bigger shift, too. Management thinks 2026. That'll be the first year WBTV sends more scripted shows to streamers than to old-school broadcast and cable combined.
The focus is shifting internally or to other streamers.
Yeah. Not the legacy network so much anymore.
Okay, that leads us perfectly into principle number 2, scaling HBO Max globally. Their mantra was, it's not how much, it's how good. Quality focus.
Right.
So after all that investment and restructuring, how's the streaming business actually doing financially?
The turnaround is, well, it's the headline here, this segment. It's on track to make over $1.3 billion in EBITDA this year.
$1.3 billion profit.
Profit. And you need to remember, just 3 years ago, this same division was losing $2.5 billion a year.
That is. Yeah, that's a dramatic pivot, a huge swing.
It really is.
What about subscribers? Are they getting the scale they need to keep that profit going?
Growth is steady, seems sustainable. They hit 128 million global subs, added about 2.3 million this quarter.
Okay.
The big goal is over 150 million by the end of 2026, and they're pushing out globally over 100 countries now. Plus, big launches coming next year. Germany, Italy, UK, Ireland, markets where people already know the HBO content.
Familiarity helps, and that quality focus, is it actually driving people to watch more?
Seems like it. Look at shows like Task and Gilded Age, averaging over 10 million viewers per episode in Q3.
Pretty strong numbers.
And that new horror show, Welcome to Derry, had the third biggest series premiere in HBO history.
Third biggest ever, behind what?
Only behind The Last of Us and House of the Dragon. Almost 15 million watched it in the first week.
Okay, so the content engine is firing.
Yeah, the whole package, the library, the HBO originals, those Warner Bros. Pay One movies hitting the service. It's working, driving record engagement, they said.
Hold on, Pay One movies. Can you just quickly explain that for the listener?
Sure, it just means they're big new theatrical releases, like Superman or Weapons. After the cinema run, their first streaming window, the first place you can watch them at home with a subscription, is exclusively on HBO Max.
Got it. So it feeds the streaming service directly from the studio's biggest hits.
Exactly. It's a key part of making Max sticky.
Okay, understood. But here's something I saw in the numbers that feels like a challenge to that growth story. ARPU. Average revenue per user. It dropped quite a bit, didn't it?
It did. That's a sharp observation. Global ARPU was down 16% ex-FX to $6.64. Domestically, down 13%.
16%? That sounds bad. Why isn't management freaking out about that?
Yeah, it's a great question because that's not a small number. They did acknowledge it, but they framed it as short-term and noisy.
Noisy, okay.
Their explanation is that it's almost entirely down to the full impact this quarter of renegotiating a big domestic distribution deal, one they had with a company they used to be related to before the merger.
Sounds a bit like corporate speak, noisy. Is there a real reason that specific deal would cause such a temporary steep drop?
Well, there is a mechanism. Think of it like this. They had old contracts, probably from the AT&T days, maybe bulk deals giving access in a certain, perhaps higher effective price per user.
Right, legacy deals.
Exactly. As those expire and they sign new deals, maybe structured differently or with different partners, the average revenue across all users takes a temporary hit.
Ah, okay, so the average calculation gets skewed downwards for a bit.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Angie was basically saying, look, this is a hangover from cleaning up old structures. It'll pass. They expect ARPU to start growing again in 2026.
Driven by what?
International growth, planned price hikes in some markets, and, continuing that password sharing crackdown. They seem confident the underlying trend is healthy.
Okay, that makes the noisy comment a bit more believable then. It's a structural artifact, not necessarily a demand problem.
Seems to be the argument, yeah.
All right, let's shift to the third principle. Optimizing the global linear networks. This feels like the toughest job, right? Managing decline in traditional TV.
Absolutely. This segment is facing huge structural headwinds, no doubt about it. Revenue down 23%. Adjusted EBITDA down 20%.
Oof.
Now, a big chunk of that revenue drop was because the Olympics comparison wasn't there this year.
Right, the Europe broadcast last year.
Yeah, but the core issue persists. Distribution revenue, the money from cable companies, down 8%. Why? Domestic pay TV subs down 9%.
The cord-cutting reality bites.
It really does. Now, they did manage to offset some of that by negotiating slightly higher fees, about a 2% increase in affiliate rates domestically.
Trying to squeeze more from fewer subs.
Pretty much. But it's clear the trend is down, and that forces big strategic moves, like the NBA rights decision.
Yeah, letting the NBA rights go, that was huge news.
Controversial, for sure. But they expect ditching those expensive rights will save them hundreds of millions of dollars starting next year.
So a calculated retreat from premium linear sports.
It looks like it. trading that high-cost content for sailings, reflecting, that they can't rely on linear forever.
And that forces them towards new digital plans for those legacy brands, right?
Yeah.
How are they trying to future-proof CNN and TNT?
By building separate digital offshoots. We saw CNN All Access launch. It's a streaming subscription, $6.99 a month.
A standalone CNN streamer.
Essentially, yeah. Management's positioning it as vital for keeping trusted journalism accessible, especially with AI and everything else muddying the waters. A global product.
Okay. And for TNT Sports, since the NBA is leaving.
They're building a dedicated TNT Sports streaming app for the U.S. This is really important because remember, HBO Max isn't going to carry U.S. sports after the planned separation.
Ah, right. The rights stay separate.
Exactly. So this new app is meant to catch that sports audience. You can get it standalone, or they'll probably bundle it later.
Okay, so all this planning, separating sports rights, focusing on distinct streaming, it all points towards that big structural change, the elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
The board announced that strategic review back in October. The original plan was the split. Warner Bros., streaming studios, and Discovery Global Networks by mid-2026. Where does that stand now?
Well, the original split plan, still technically on track. But the board basically opened the door wide on October 21st. They're reviewing all strategic alternatives, meaning they're open for business, could be a sale of the whole company, could be selling off the two planned businesses separately, or, interestingly, maybe a different kind of separation.
Like what?
Like one that lets the Warner Bros. Part, the sexier streaming and studio assets, merge with someone else, while the Discovery Global Networks part spins off on its own.
Maximizing their options, basically. Be ready for the split, but also be ready if a buyer comes knocking for all or part of it.
That's exactly it. Management confirmed they have an active process underway.
Yeah.
Of course, they wouldn't name names or comment on specific interest.
Naturally.
But yeah, stabilization's done. Now it's about the final shape split, sale, merge. It's all on the table, it seems.
Okay, so let's try and sum up this deep dive then. It feels like WBD got through that really tough post-merger stabilization. Now they're showing real growth, especially from the studios being more efficient.
Yeah, more money per film.
And from HBO Max expanding globally and actually turning a profit. And now they're prepping for a massive structural change within, the next 18 months or so?
That's the picture. Yeah. And their core money-making strategy seems twofold now. One, exploit that huge library of known IPDC, Gremlins, Harry Potter, all of it. And two, bring content monetization inside. Pull back stuff they used to license out to others, put it on HBO Max instead. They clearly believe that keeps subscribers happier and delivers more value long-term than just taking a check from a competitor.
That IP strategy feels absolutely central to their future value, especially for the Warner Bros. Part. But it does raise a fascinating question, maybe a tension.
Go on.
Okay, here's the final thought for you listening to chew on. Think about HBO's brand. Historically, its value, its prestige, comes from those high-quality original shows, right? The ones you can't just mine from existing IP. The ones that create buzz, community conversation.
The Sopranos, Game of Thrones, Succession.
Exactly. But at the same time, the studio side is being pushed hard to mine every bit of existing IP. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, DC, everything.
Maximize those franchises.
Right. So can these future entities, whether they're split, sold, or merged, can they really walk that tightrope? Can they protect that unique, high-quality HBO originality while also aggressively mining the back catalog for global IP cash?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Balancing prestige creation with franchise exploitation.
It feels like future success depends on nailing both simultaneously. If they lean too hard into just mining IP and dilute that HBO quality, well, does the whole thing start to lose its edge? Something to think about.